Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at, well, one of the most fascinating strategic professional careers in modern entertainment, Taylor Allison Swift.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're not getting into celebrity gossip here. We're really analyzing the, let's say, the operational profile of an incredibly successful professional.
Right, a singer-songwriter, musician, producer, entrepreneur. I mean, she's managed to keep extraordinary creative and financial control for, what, almost 2 decades now?
Exactly. It's quite something.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to quickly get under the hood of her core identity and really the mechanics of her strategic evolution. How does an artist pivot so successfully across, well, country, pop, rock, indie, folk, synth pop?
And maybe even more importantly, how did she turn that artistic success into actual intellectual property ownership? That's a key piece.
It really is. When you look at the sheer scope, 10 major studio albums, 12 plus Grammys.
Including 3 Album of the Year wins, which is just unprecedented.
It shows you this isn't just about talent, right? It's like a masterclass in vertical integration.
Totally. And she plays multiple instruments: vocals, guitar, piano, banjo. That control over the input, the creation side, that becomes critical leverage down the line.
Okay, so let's unpack that foundation. We need to start at the beginning, the genesis of this professional storyteller.
Well, what's striking is how clear her ambition was right from the start. Her early influences weren't just singers, they were, songwriters, narrative architects, people like Shania Twain, the Dixie Chicks, Dolly Parton.
So she wanted to build stories from the get-go, not just sing existing ones.
Precisely. That focus led her to write her first song, Lucky You, at only 12. But the really foundational strategic move, arguably the big one, happened when she was 14.
The Nashville move.
Absolutely. Moving the family to Nashville, Tennessee, that wasn't just like a whim. It was a serious capital investment in her career. It put her right at the heart of the industry before she could even legally drive.
And that accelerated everything, didn't it?
Immensely. It paid off fast. By 2006, age 16, she signs with Big Machine Records. But actually, the even earlier marker of her value was getting hired by Sony ATV Music Publishing.
The youngest songwriter ever hired by them.
Exactly. That cemented her foundation. It meant her value was recognized up front as a lyricist, a composer, not just a performer. So no matter how the sound changed later, the core product, the intellectual property, was already established and valued professionally.
That structural foundation then let her build this architectural blueprint, album by album, tracking those genre shifts from, country prodigy to global pop force.
Yeah, the 2006 debut, Taylor Swift, it laid out that core identity. Autobiographical, relatable country stories. But the moves right after that show the strategy.
Like Fearless in 2008.
Right. Fearless started blending pop into that country structure, and crucially, it won Album of the Year. That set a really high bar for validation early on.
Then she followed that with Speak Now in 2010. Why is that one so significant, strategically speaking?
Well, Speak Now was basically a declaration of ownership. The entire album.
Yeah.
She wrote it completely herself, every single track.
Which is unusual.
Very unusual, especially then. In an industry full of co-writes, doing that just silenced any potential doubts about her authorship, her technical skill. It was her staking a claim, really reinforcing her leverage on the creation side for anything that came next.
Okay, so then comes the deliberate pivot. Red in 2012. That feels like the transition point.
Definitely. Testing the waters, you could say.
Yeah.
Bringing in rock, pop, more experimental production. Think I Knew You Were Trouble.
But the full jump, the transformation, was 1989 and 2014. That was a complete unapologetic leap into 80s synth pop.
And this is, I think, a perfect case study in recognizing a market ceiling. The country genre, while it was her base, arguably limited her global reach.
So 1989 was about scale.
It was a strategic insight, yeah. Realizing one genre loyalty might need to be traded for a much bigger scale. She essentially dismantled her previous commercial brand, that country darling image, to build a much larger, globally scalable pop identity.
And it worked. It cemented her status, got her that second Album of the Year Grammy. It confirmed the pivot was viable. But wasn't that incredibly risky? Alienating her core country fan base.
Oh, it was a massive risk. Huge, but it was calculated. The core product, those intensely personal narrative lyrics that stayed consistent.
The delivery system changed, but the story didn't.
Pretty much. The vehicle changed from, say, a banjo to a synth, but that emotional connection, she banked on that surviving the genre shift, and largely it did. She minimized the fan attrition because the strength of her IP, the storytelling, was still there.
That focus on managing the narrative, her own story, that brings us to the later experiments, especially how she handled that intense public scrutiny after the huge success of 1989.
Right, Reputation in 2017 is fascinating from that perspective. Instead of hiding during all those public feuds and media storms, she leaned right into it.
How so?
She basically transformed all that external chaos and criticism into a product, a contained, high-concept, revenue-generating product. That darker, edgier sound, songs like "Look What You Made Me Do." It was almost like an artistic defense mechanism, showing she could control even a negative narrative.
Then she did a complete 180 with Lover in 2019, much lighter. But the biggest creative risk, for me anyway, seems like that 2020 double feature, Folklore and Evermore.
Oh, absolutely, a huge swing.
Suddenly she just ditches the big pop stadium sound entirely for indie folk, alternative styles.
And that pivot, winning her a third album of the year with Folklore, I mean, that was strategically brilliant. It did a couple of things. It boosted her intellectual credibility immensely.
It showed she wasn't just about pop hits.
Exactly. And it also maybe helped avoid market saturation. It proved her success wasn't solely dependent on the high-cost pop machine on radio play. She expanded her product line into this more subtle, literary, mature space. It diversified her whole artistic portfolio.
So the folk albums weren't just a whim, but another strategic move, a demonstration of artistic leverage, proving she can win outside the mainstream pop rules.
Precisely. It cemented that her credibility came from narrative depth, not just catchy hooks or fitting into youth culture. And then, interestingly, she kind of synthesized those lessons in Midnights in 2022.
Back to synth-pop.
Back to synth-pop, yes, but integrating that layered, mature introspection she'd honed on the folk albums, it was a more complex version of her pop sound.
Okay, all these creative pivots, they require serious professional leverage. Which leads us perfectly into what might be the most important narrative for listeners thinking strategically. How does an artist turn creative control into real ownership? Let's dive into the business side, the re-recordings.
Yes, the Taylor's versions. This is really the pinnacle of her strategic operational thinking, I'd argue. Fundamentally, these re-recordings are a mechanism to regain ownership, or at least control, over her master recordings after the rights to her first 6 albums were sold, famously without her input.
So how does that actually work in practice? Is it just symbolic, or does it have real commercial teeth?
Oh, it has teeth. It's essentially an aggressive, market-driven devaluation strategy against the original masters. Think about it. Every time someone wants to license an older hit, say, Love Story, for a movie or an ad.
They now have 2 versions to choose from.
Exactly. And she can offer them her Taylor's version. Since she fully owns the new sound recording and publishing for her version, licensing hers means the original rights holders get cut out of that specific revenue stream entirely.
Wow, so she's not just remaking the songs, she's flooding the market with a competing, superior product from an ownership perspective, forcing the industry, license by license, to choose her IP over the older, disputed IP.
That's a core mechanic. It's a brilliant use of market pressure combined with advocacy for artist rights, and then you factor in the from the vault tracks.
The previously unreleased songs added to each re-recorded album.
Right. Those aren't just fan service. They drive massive commercial interest in the new recordings. They ensure the Taylor's versions debut huge, dominate charts, and immediately establish commercial superiority over the originals in the current market. It's incredibly effective.
Let's talk about her marketing more broadly, too. You hear about the Easter eggs. For people thinking professionally, that sounds a bit, well, casual. What's the actual strategic purpose there?
It's really a strategy of cultivated scarcity and what you might call meta-narrative marketing. She embeds clues, hidden meanings, references in her lyrics, her videos, social media, everything.
What does that achieve?
It's designed specifically to reward intense, continuous fan engagement. It transforms passive listening into active, almost analytical participation. It strengthens loyalty immensely and drives constant buzz, constant earned media.
So she's essentially turning the consumption of her art into this huge, ongoing, crowdsourced game, which keeps that loyal fan base, the Swifties, deeply invested long-term.
Absolutely. It guarantees her audience feels like they're in on it, like co-conspirators in her creative journey. That fosters a relationship built on, well, perceived trust and strategic communication. That level of engagement is a huge part of why she maintains such enormous cultural and financial clout.
And beyond the music, the ownership battles. The profile we looked at also highlights significant philanthropy, education, disaster relief, LGBTQ plus rights.
Yes, it shows her scale is now being leveraged for social impact too. She's really moved beyond just being a highly successful artist.
She's more like a one-woman entertainment conglomerate.
You could say that. A conglomerate whose success is rooted way back in that initial foundation as a world-class storyteller, and now in her current power as an IP holder and producer. Even the brief mentions of her acting Valentine's Day, The Giver, Cats, they just underscore her willingness to leverage her brand across different media verticals.
So wrapping this up for the listener, what's the core takeaway here? It seems to be that her career is almost a textbook case of turning creative talent into professional power. Using genre shifts country to pop to folk, not just randomly, but as strategic market expansion moves.
Right. And all while relentlessly securing and defending her intellectual property. Moves like writing Speak Now entirely herself, or these commercially devastating re-recordings.
They weren't just artistic choices, they were business decisions.
Absolutely. The whole career narrative suggests that continuous professional reinvention, backed by that relentless pursuit of creative ownership, is really the blueprint for longevity and power in today's entertainment industry.
Okay, but let's leave our listeners with something more to chew on, based on everything we've discussed. A final thought.
Well, here's something to consider. Given her proven versatility, her decades-long commitment to artistic ownership and advocacy, what kind of precedent is she setting? Her ongoing ability to redefine her genre and claw back control of her creative history. What does that mean for the next generation of musicians trying to navigate the business side, especially around financing and who actually owns the master recordings?
A profound question indeed, especially for a career that feels like it's still actively rewriting the rulebook.
It certainly is. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.